Great day, Kendrick. So I'm here to tell you guys my favorite color and the spiritual context that comes with it. So my favorite color is purple. When I was a little girl, my favorite color was red, but when I became a teenager, purple just started catching my eye more. And it's every shade of purple: lavender, deep, dark purple, just every color of purple I like. Every shade of purple I like. I love. It's my favorite. And when I first started liking the color purple, it was royalty is what stood out to me for that color, royalty. Because, and also I noticed that like when you go to church, some of them church robes would be purple, or some churches would have the color purple. So in that context also, I felt like it was tied to religion, because I think I've been to 2 churches that had purple choir robes. I feel like purple with silver and maybe gold with purple in the center or something. But so anyhow, I equated it with religion or church choirs or whatever. And until I became spiritually awakened, I didn't equate it to spirituality at all. Like, I didn't know that it had a spiritual context to it. And so when I looked up the color purple, the spiritual context for the color, it explains that it spiritually is linked to wisdom, intuition, balance. I want to say, wait, let me. Okay, it says it symbolizes royalty, which is what I always equated it to, even before spirituality. Power, a connection to the divine, higher consciousness, and spiritual development. And then it says it can also signify a balance between the physical and spiritual realms. So, divine connection. This royal association extends to the spiritual realm, representing a connection to the divine, with purple symbolizing holiness and being set apart for sacred purposes. And then it says spiritual authority. In many traditions, purple is seen as a color of spiritual leadership, like the high priest in the Old Testament, and symbolizes higher spiritual development. So once I became spiritually awakened and I started communing with spirit, I began to realize that my whole entire life, the things that I was equating or not equating, or determining or deciding. That was like coincidences and whatever, deja vus. Trying to think of like the terms people, the what they say 3D terms or whatever. But anyhow, I realized that I have psychic abilities. And now that I'm aware of them, I wasn't aware of them then. I just thought they were, oh, I could just pick up on other people's feelings or emotions or whatever. Or I thought that my intuition, like whenever I would run into somebody, I could pretty much feel whether or not they were somebody that I would have around or not. And it would usually be, so I just called that a good judge of character. I wasn't even equating it to spirituality. So I actually want y'all to bear with me because something is going on with my voice. And it keeps, like, the more I talk, the more it's going away for some reason. And I know it has to do with my throat chakra. So anyhow, moving on. So once I became attuned to spirit and communing with spirit is when I realized that all those things that I was deja vu and all those things I was categorizing as, oh, these are just things that happen to everybody, was actually spiritual gifts that I didn't even realize I had. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I wasn't aligned with them. I wasn't attuned to them. I'm gonna say that. So the more I so the more I became aligned and the more I became attuned, the color purple, everywhere I went, I would see it. And everything I buy, it's purple. Y'all see I got a purple cup. My little journal is purple. And I had went out and bought me a purple Bible. So that color just always, I always say jump out, but it always jumped out at me. So whatever it was, I seen that was purple, I would always get it. It also represents, the color purple also represents balance. And the more I aligned spiritually, the more my consciousness expanded, which it also says is represents higher consciousness, imagination and intuition. So intuition and higher consciousness. Imagination, I think about when I was younger, how as a kid, you know, you have a real vivid imagination. And some people as adults, their imagination dwindles. So I've actually been trying to focus more on my imagination. I do feel like I'm a little creative, not extensively, but I'm sure if I tap into it more, I will be. I remember when I was little, I used to draw these like designs, and I know this is this is going into a lot of other stuff, but so when I was little, I used to draw this, and I would go from the edge of the paper, and then I would just draw lines. They would be more curved, but now that I'm older and I don't do it, but I used to do this all around a paper. I would go around the whole paper and just draw like this, just draw around the whole paper. And I thought, when I was a kid, I thought I was just doodling. I didn't know that I was actually drawing some type of pattern. I'm still not for sure what the pattern is for, but yeah, I would just sit and do that, and I would go all the way around until it ended up in the center of the paper. So as I started playing these games on these phones, on these smartphones, I started seeing what's called mandalas. And when I saw the mandalas, it reminded me of when I used to sit and just draw these on paper. Like, oh my gosh, that's what I was doing, drawing mandalas. I never looked up what mandalas mean, but let's do that too. See what mandalas mean. And we'll come back to some more of the spiritual context of the color purple. But I never even equated the color purple to spirituality. But I actually didn't even realize that I was a spiritual being until after I became spiritually aware and was in a church looking at the difference between religion and spirituality. I actually have read this book called Killed by Religion, titled Killed by Religion. And it was a book that talked about how Christ was killed by religion. Like the spirit, what Christ stands for, was killed by religion because of the people building the church and taking on the concepts that they took on in a church, building a church. Anyhow, you're supposed to be looking up mandalas. Maybe I should put significance of mandalas. Let's see if it has a spiritual context, since we're talking about spiritual context. Jessica, you are tripping. The glasses are for reading. And you don't even use them sometimes. So it says a mandala is a complex circular geometric design that serves as a spiritual tool and a symbol of the universe, wholeness, and the journey toward enlightenment. So as a little girl, I wasn't even aware of spirituality. I knew of God and Christ, but spirituality, I didn't know nothing about that as a little girl. So that lets me know that my inner being was expressing itself before I even realized that I had an inner being. That is interesting. That is very, very interesting to find that out. All off of the color purple. That's beautiful, actually. It's actually a beautiful thing. So it also says mental and spiritual healing. Mental healing, spiritual growth. Spiritual growth. That's what I work on, spiritual growth. Expanding spiritually. That was the one thing that I learned too when I was in a church, that people wasn't getting that their spiritual growth, their spiritual elevation is their responsibility. It's not the pastors, it's not the preachers, it's not the usher and the bishops and the deacons. It's their individual responsibility for their own spiritual growth. I've been listening to find out what other spiritual gifts that I have, because I know I don't know all of my spiritual gifts, but I know I am a healer because my hands, I ain't gonna get into that anyway, because we supposed to be talking about the color purple and the spiritual context of that color, even though that is a part of the, but yeah, I know that I'm a healer. And I have been thinking about becoming a Reiki healer or something like that. That's a new path that I have been thinking about embarking on. But anyhow, the part about the color purple, when I started realizing about energy, the fact that I could feel energy, people's energy, but I forget that I can feel other people's energy. So anytime I start feeling sad or I get a headache or something like that, I instantly think, where did this come from? I didn't feel this. I don't know why. I don't remember. It takes me a minute to remember that it belongs to somebody else. It's not mine. So then I had learned you have to get grounding crystals and stuff to protect you from picking up on other people's energies. And amethyst stood out because it's purple. That was the one that stood out to me the most, the amethyst crystal. And I used to have this really big necklace that was a really huge amethyst. that I had got. I went to Sedona and went to like this shop. It was called the Mystic Bazaar, I believe. And I got that amethyst. And it was so beautiful. It's just the color to me is just so beautiful. Like, I don't know, maybe it's my eyes. It does something to my eyes. And it definitely does something to my spirit. Whew. So, this is the last thing I'm going to tell y'all about the color purple. So, I remember one night I was dreaming, and in my mind's eye, when I meditate, I like to go, I sit in a field, but I'll sit and I lean up against a tree. Like, that's my happy space when I meditate. So I was dreaming, and I stood up. I got, I guess I was leaving. I guess I decided I was leaving. So I stood up, but when I stood up, I was facing the tree. And when I turned around, I just saw all of this like lavender, these lavender dried flowers. It was like this color. And it was like flowers, like dried bushels of, I'm gonna say it was a violet, because I did look it up when I woke up. When I woke up, I looked it up. But it was bushels and bushels and bushels and bushels of this dried violet. So far, like further than my eyes could see. And it was all around. When I turned back around to look around, the tree was gone. And I was just standing in the middle of all of this purple bushels of violets. And it was like long and bulky bushels. And I was thinking, in my mind, who gonna clean up all these bushels? I was thinking the way they have hay bales on a farm. The way they have hay bales on a farm. That's what I was thinking of. Like, who gonna come and pick up all these bushels? Because it was nothing else there. It was just me standing in the center of all these bushels of violets. And so that was what my mind was thinking in the dream. But once I woke up and I looked it up, and it had said it was a symbol of abundance, the violet, the flower, and that color was abundance. And it said something about a high spiritual consciousness. But so that's the spiritual text of the color purple for me. And like I said before, like, I didn't even realize that purple was connected to spirituality. So let's see if it says something else before we. Whew. So it says in religious texts that purple was used for the curtains and the high priest garments in the tabernacle, emphasizing its association with holiness and divine service. And then it says Jesus's passion. In the gospel, soldiers dressed Jesus in a purple robe to mock him as King of Jews. And then in the book of Proverbs, the wise woman in Proverbs is described as clothing her family in fine linen and purple, linking it to prosperity and wisdom. So, like I said, I didn't equate the color purple with spirituality until here recently, like maybe the past, I want to say 10 years. I realized that purple has something to do with so what's y'all favorite colors? And what's y'all spiritual context of the colors? Like I say, when I was a little girl, red was my favorite color. And I feel like it was just because it was such a bright color. I don't even remember why I like the color red. I don't equate anything bad with anything. So, but I know a lot of people equate the color red with Satan, Santa, and whatever. But I'm sure it's deeper than that. I do have a couple of pairs of red gym shoes that I don't ever wear, that I'm end up selling because I don't wear them. What a one, some Air Max. And they hurt my feet. I seen that the older I got. Can y'all hear that? I turned the volume down and it's still making noise, so I probably need to just turn the notifications off. But anyhow, as I was saying, what is your favorite color? Tell me in the comments and tell me what your spiritual context of it is. But also, I think about, with the color purple, I think about the sky at night when the stars are visible and like you can see like the moon in the back of a horizon. That's purple also. And what just came to my mind is that is an illumination of where I come from. A child of the divine, a child of the cosmos, which is a beautiful thing. So, kindred, I hope I didn't bore y'all to death talking about my favorite color, purple. And I think I'm going to drink me some tea because I hear my voice. My voice is going out again. I need to do some throat chakra work or something. Maybe I'll see what happens once I drink this tea. I was gonna make a couple of more videos, but because my voice is leaving, it's letting me know it's time for me to stop talking. Because it's something I don't need to be saying. But anyway, have a great day, kindred. And I pray you are having the feelings of the love of the Most High. Whew. Okay. Great day.